Listen, we're going dark right off the bat today, right? No
Boy.
fucking round this week,
Guess
right?
it's just not that kind of week.
Absolutely not. I think we've been altogether too gentle of late. I think we've been altogether. We're not the Joe Ag of old of late, right?
Hmm. All
So
those lighthearted sex cults and whatnot.
yeah. It's frankly we've become like a good time, jolly fucking,
Right. Good
fucking
for the
about
whole
with your mates.
family.
Exactly. We've become light entertainment,
Mm.
right? So fuck that. Let's
All
go
right.
straight in. Let's go straight in on the tale of Issei Sagawa.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you know the guy.
I know the guy. Yeah.
You know the guy. To me, just an object lesson in how sometimes the system fucks it up.
Yeah. Once in a
Yeah,
while, the
once in
system
a
fucks
while,
things up.
uh, once in a while, the
Time
system.
and time again.
But when it, but sometimes it fucks up in a weird way, right? Sometimes it throws up an absolute fucking anomalous fuck up of a massive and unprecedented scale, and that's exactly what's happened with this guy, Issei Sagawa. If you know the story, dear listener, do please fucking indulge me while I recap for those who might not know about our friend Issei Sagawa, born in 1949 in Kobe, in Japan. A weird, sickly child was Mr. Sagawa, with a head rather too large for his body, all 5 foot of him.
When he grew up, he was 5 feet.
Yeah, he is as an adult man, was only 5 foot tall,
with a giant parking meter head,
with a fucking huge dome of a Meekan fucking weird, almost hydroencephalus kind of looking big ass fucking weird head. Very sickly as an infant, tiny when he was born, could fit in his father's palm. But whether or not it played into the astonishing sense of entitlement with which he lived his life, had very wealthy parents. His dad was a company director in the water purification industry, very well educated. All right, he studied to master's degree level in English lit, and for whatever reason, obsessed, even as a youth, even from his elementary school days, with the idea of eating human flesh, even as a child. And we know this because, as you will find shortly, he's given many interviews on the topic and talked at length on the topic, because our boy Issei Sagawa is still alive, right? He still lives right now, a free man. And in an interview with Vice magazine, it was in the first, this is a quote, direct quote from him. It was in the first grade of elementary school when I saw the quivering meat on a male classmate's thighs, and I suddenly thought, that looks delicious. Yeah.
Do you think that, just as an aside here, do you think that's true? Like, or is that, he is contributing to the lore of himself,
I think both.
Okay.
He is massively self-aggrandizing. Has, like you said, has constructed his own legend, has constructed his own lore, has been prolific in talking about himself. But more on that to come, all right? Because many times during his university career, he considered and came pretty close to enacting and acting on his murderous and cannibalistic urges. He broke into a lady's apartment in 1972 in Tokyo, and attempted to kill her, but the woman overpowered him and overpowered him. He was only 5 foot tall for fuck's sake.
I imagine. I mean, most women probably are a little bit taller than that, so bold of him, but no, not gonna happen.
Almost inevitably, while studying in Paris, he befriended a colleague, a fellow student by the name of Renée Altwelt, and one night invited her to his apartment for dinner. And while there, took out a rifle that he'd bought and shot her from behind. I hasten to add, this motherfucker shot her in the neck from behind. And had sex with a corpse, obviously.
Jesus Christ.
And spent the next 2 days cutting apart and eating various parts of her body. Ate her neck, her thighs, her leg, breast, buttocks. And spent 2 days, some cooked, some raw. After a few days, he cut the body up and put it into 2 separate suitcases and took it to a French a park in a nearby park which had a lake where he intended to throw the cases into the water.
Sorry. I've been trying to hold back from coughing for like 3 minutes.
Go for it.
Okay, go ahead.
Onlookers noticed the cases he was carrying was seeping with blood.
So this is like during the day with people around. He's just
he
like, doop-a-doo, here's my
taxi. He took a fucking cab in broad daylight with these 2 fucking cases stuffed with what was left of Rene, and was quite rightly collared. And
I mean, this is what you were saying about just from the get-go, the entitlement and everything that this guy had all that stuff, like that sense that you can just brazenly do something like that and get away with it. Like most people, no matter how sociopathic you are or whatever, understand that you can't do shit like that. You're gonna have to try to conceal it. And so it's wild that this guy's just like, it's fine, it's gonna be okay.
But when he got into trouble before, his father, his super wealthy father, had weighed in. You know what I mean?
Of course, right.
Paid for a fantastic defense, and the same thing happened this time. His father stepped in. He was held for 2 years in prison in France. Okay, he was held without trial for 2 years while he was awaiting trial. And when he finally got to trial after those 2 years, he was declared by the judge legally insane.
Of course,
right? And this is where you just fucking cannot believe the sequence of events. He was declared legally insane and unfit to stand trial, okay, after 2 years being held in prison. So while he was in a French institution, that was where he co-wrote his first book, right?
Oh, God.
He was visited by an author and he wrote his first book called In the Fog, a semi-autobiographical, fully laid out the murder end to end.
It's almost the O.J. Simpson, if I did it.
Completely this. But over the furore of that book being written, he was deported. Okay, he was deported to Japan, where supposedly he was going to be spending the rest of his life in an institution. Okay.
Right. Yeah, because that's what, when it comes to the idea of like being declared insane in a court of law, a lot of times, I think maybe because of TV or whatever, we assume that means like, and thus they're free. But normally what that is supposed to mean is, okay, they will be institutionalized until such a time at which they are not a threat to society or for the rest of their lives.
Exactly this. What that amounted to in this case, however, was because upon deportation, the charges in France were dropped. That meant that the case was sealed and nothing could be given to the authorities in Japan. No case against him at all. So in 1986, he literally checked himself the fuck out of his institution, Japan, and walked free.
So bonkers. Like we all know the system doesn't work in pretty much any sense. That is truly next level. Just, that's it. There's just nothing anyone can do about it.
Nope.
It's been nice knowing you. Have fun.
And since then in 1986, as a free man, I am at a loss to describe the kind of sick fucking pseudo cult of celebrity that has surrounded this fucking massive water-headed ghoul. He's written some 20 odd books.
Fiction or?
Oh, some fiction, some semi-fiction, some manga.
Okay.
Yeah, I know. He's been invited by publications to submit restaurant reviews.
See, this is also, even when you said at the beginning of this, in an interview with Vice, I'm like, what the fuck is Vice doing interviewing this guy?
Exactly. Vice have had the guy on 3 separate times.
It's like there's a I mean, okay, you see this with a lot of serial killers and stuff like that too, and ones who think really highly of themselves, like BTK, for example. They just really got off on the attention from that crime. It was like getting arrested is the best thing that happened to BTK, because now he gets to like boast. He got to boast about all the things that he did. And it's like at that point it becomes society's fault. Like 100%. Yeah, this guy is a giant asshole and he did a horrible thing and all that kind of stuff, and now it's our fault when we buy his manga and stuff like that.
Completely.
Like, oh, that's so frustrating. It's infuriating.
Hugely frustrating. And, when I say the cult that surrounds him, there have been songs written about him. There have been documentaries made about him. The Stones wrote a song about him on their 1983 album Undercover called Too Much Blood, all about him and violence, in the media. There are plenty of punk and grindcore metal has been written about him. Documentaries, like I say, he's starred himself in exploitation movies, in softcore porn exploitation movies. He came within inches of getting a job as a teacher in a French language school.
Come on.
I'm serious. The head of the school was quietly impressed that he'd had the balls to use his own name and to apply as himself, but there was a kind of a protest by the rest of the staff of the school.
Yeah, and I can imagine.
Job. Yeah. Many interviews, and like I said, his series of interviews for Vice magazine is shocking in the worst fucking way. Not shocking in terms of what he says, but shocking
content. But
it's
exactly what you'd expect someone like that to say.
Yes.
And that's it's giving him, obviously with the things that we're interested in, the idea of documentaries of people who do terrible things and stuff like that is not like a outright terrible idea, but letting the person craft their narrative, letting them enjoy a life where they get to be the star of this and make money off of this, and create this little cult around them. That is just, I don't know how you defend that. And I get that, like with something like Vice specifically, that's kind of their bag, is like, we're going to show you the deepest and darkest, and, we will talk to terrible people, whatever. But in general, it's just, that's what it's, this poor woman who also, her body's all over the internet and things like that. And, we know all of these details of, and the guy who did it gets to
profit for a fucking start.
From
gets paid for this stuff.
There's absolutely no justice for this whatsoever. None of this. And it's like the clear lack of rehabilitation. Like, I mean, obviously, well, as far as we know, he's not still doing that.
No, he isn't. And on the bright side, I guess, he's very much in his last years. He had a stroke in 2013, which fucked him up even more so than he was anyway. He now he lives under constant care now from his brothers. So
I always like to hear that at least the person is suffering. That's not like a fun time, and it should only happen to people like him.
Quite right.
You have to suffer that kind of thing happening to you.
So this is how we open Jack of all graves this week, folks, in the knowledge that our system, our wonderful system, sometimes fucks up so spectacularly to allow
cannibal manga,
fucking cannibal necrophiles to spend a life walking free, profiting, discussing, aggrandizing, and benefiting from their own fucking sociopathy. And I have to sit here with cramps.